Is there a way I can make this bigger?
Hello, hello. This is I am Stacey Thomas with the Stacey Thomas Unrestricted Unlimited Talk Show. Welcome and thank you for tuning in. Today I am blessed once again. It didn't work out last time, but I'm blessed to have him back. Rick Younger, actor, singer, and comedian. And let me tell you guys, if you missed the last one, hopefully it'll be just as good as today will be just as good as the last one because he has some awesome things to say to you. Welcome, Rick.
Hey, thanks for having me. You said what? This is unlimited, unrestricted?
Unrestricted, unlimited.
Oh man, does that mean I can say anything?
Rick, you can say anything you want.
Oh my goodness. Oh, it's about to be on then.
And you know, Rick, I didn't get a chance to tell you last time, but you fit that unrestricted, unlimited because I noticed, and I don't want to jump too ahead of myself, but I don't want to forget this either. As I've been following you the last few years, am I correct when I say you perform comedy in churches and outside of churches?
Yeah. I've pretty much done comedy any place where it's ever been able to be done. I would imagine I've done comedy in churches, comedy clubs, large arenas. I did comedy on a train once. I mean, like, I pretty much would go if you call me, and especially if you're gonna pay me. So I'll give it a try. I have yet to do Zoom comedy, like online, like with on a Zoom meeting. I've seen a lot of that's happening since the shutdown, but so far no one has asked me to be on any of those shows.
Well, don't say that, or I'll be asking you to come on a Zoom thing with me, Rick. Don't say that. How are things going with you and your family during this coronavirus?
I mean, it's we're making it work. I feel like here's the thing. Me and my wife are separated, but we live about 5 minutes away from each other.
Okay.
As you know, I was working on Broadway, so I have no job right now. So I'm home, and so she's working from home at her place. So what happens is in the morning I will get them, bring them over to my house, and they're here pretty much from 9 to 5. And that's not including some nights where either they'll stay here or sometimes we do the divide and conquer where one of us takes a kid, each one takes a kid. So overall, we're making it work. But like after we did our video check earlier, both of my kids kind of had little meltdowns, and getting them out of here was a lot harder than because they fuel off of each other. Like, Lolo is 3 and she'll do things that will, she's fussing and whining. It's like she decided to hit terrible 2s when she got 3. So now she's doing a lot of fussing and complaining. Rory's on the spectrum, and somehow that affects him negatively if it goes on for too long. And then he gets upset. And then I got 2 kids that are both making a fuss and, meanwhile, trying to be an adult who doesn't lose it because both of their kids are losing it, which sometimes I fail at, sometimes I do it all right, but we're all human.
So Rory, how old is Rory?
Rory is 11 and Lolo is 3.
So for him, so he's in school, obviously.
Yeah.
A lot of people are always talking about how it's affecting the adults and the parents that are at home and what the parents are going through. How do you think like it's affecting him? I mean, he's not around his friends.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, he does mention missing, going to school. And he a lot of times talks about wanting to do things that he can't do because, like he says, I want to go to the movies or he'll just say, let's get in the car and go for a ride, which we do. We do that on weekends. And so, I also feel like some of the short fuses that have been happening recently is because of how long things have been going on and, being in the house every day for long periods of time.
And how
it's nice outside.
And how is New York City? I mean, I haven't been there a lot, but when I have come, it's busy, busy, busy. Has it really slowed down? Because I know here in Virginia, a lot of people aren't staying in.
Well, it's slowed down relatively. Like, I mean, some places in New York is just so densely packed till it's going to look like it's a lot of people out and about. Because it's a lot of people in a small area. it seems most people are doing pretty well with social distancing. I know that like Times Square is like a ghost town because no one. It's not that many people who live down there, so most of
Mhm.
the people go into shows and whatever else they might do in Times Square, and so a lot of places like that, a lot of those places are closed. So it's not a lot of reason for anyone to be down there. But like neighborhoods, on a warm day when I go out of my house, it can be quite a few people out. I don't like it, but it's like I also understand that it's like in the neighborhood, people are going to be going to the grocery store and whatever other things that are open. And also, there's a park up here, so people are going to want to try to walk around. The playgrounds are closed and everything, but people still try to get out and be active in the neighborhood because they're tired of being stuck in the house.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm glad you're all right. I'm sorry that Broadway is closed down, but I believe that it's gonna be even better when it starts back up, Rick.
Yeah, as long as they allow me to be a part of it when it comes back, I'm fine with that.
Okay, okay, okay. So, normally I try to start in the beginning and build up to where you are now.
Uh-huh.
For some reason, I want to go backwards on this interview.
Okay,
I
go,
want
go
you to,
where the
I
spirit
want
leads
you,
you.
huh?
I said, go where the spirit leads you.
Okay. I want you, let's do the last year.
Mm-hmm.
What's been going on and what are you doing now?
Okay, I've been in Mean Girls on Broadway for the last 2 years, and the year before that was a lot of preparation for the show,
Mhm.
developing and creating the show. So the last 3 years of my life has been that mostly, but also like within the last year, I just like I was on episode 2 of season 3 of Last OG playing the character of Mezzo Mike. So just trying to get out more and I've been getting out and doing more stand up and taking up as many other acting gigs as possible outside of my 8-show work week on Broadway, because that's a grueling undertaking. Broadway is like, you can't phone it in. You can't do one take and let it last forever. You got to do it every night over and over and over, and you got to find a motivation to recreate the same thing over and over, yet keep it fresh. And so part of me is, at first when it was a shutdown and it looked like it was only going to be 4 weeks, it was like, oh, cool,
Uh-huh.
because I was totally appreciating the rest. At this point, it's now a matter of I don't like living with no income.
I uh-huh. I'm
Um,
just sharing this on some pages. Go ahead.
so like, fortunately for me, I have a couple of comedy albums, and so I get royalties off of those, and I have stuff that I've shot before that I get residuals on. So that kind of helps a little bit, but it's definitely not enough to pay rent right now. And
So you have things that you've done in the past that you'll still have income coming in for times like this?
yeah, I mean, the older the appearance is, the less money it is. Like some of my really old stuff, I'll get checks from them where it's like it doesn't even add up. It'd be like less than $1. I get like 3 or 4 checks, and it's like the whole thing will be $2 for like something I did years ago. But because like if you've done Law and Order, there's they run all the time everywhere. So, but I also have a movie, Morning Glory,
Okay.
with Harrison Ford, Diane Keaton, and Rachel McAdams, and that's been running. I've seen it running on cable like since I've been in the house. So the checks from that have been better than some of my really old ones.
Okay.
I also have another movie that just got put on Netflix called Ordinary World. So I'm hoping that people are watching that so that some nice looking checks from that will come in.
Well, after all of this is said and done, I want you to come back under this post and those movies that we need to check out, Rick, and anything else that we need to check out, I want you to either send it to me or post it under this video, okay?
Cool.
Because I'm wishing you the best. Rick, when you first Okay, well now let's go back
Mhm.
back in the day, and congratulations on all that's going on now. Okay,
Thank you.
what came first, singing, acting, or comedy?
Well, I come from a singing family. The first thing I ever remember doing is singing with my brother and my cousin. So that goes back to like 3 years old, then 4 years old, joining my first choir, and you know, just been singing ever since. As I was growing up, I kind of developed a sense of humor, and here's this is what I attest my sense of humor to, because there's always like a reason why someone becomes funny, um, and for me, it's because I come from what I call an intercomplexional marriage. Have a light skinned father and a dark skinned mother. And
Okay.
you imagine growing up in the 70s and 80s with a light skinned brother and you're a brown brother like myself. It was like I felt ugly because it seemed like all the girls like my brother, nobody like me. Like I always say, it's hard growing up in a family where your father and your brother look like the Barges and you and your mother look like pre-surgery Jacksons. So, so that's kind of how I decided, man, I need to get a personality because
Okay.
and then I got older, and by the time somebody told me that I wasn't ugly, I'd already developed the personality and the sense of humor.
Wow.
So all those years while I was singing, I was always still the funny guy in the band. So like we started gigging, and I would like in between songs be saying funny things, or while we're setting up, I'd be saying and doing funny things. So it was always a thing that singing was the thing. And but I do remember seeing people who were singers who became actors. Excuse me, like like Elvis way back in the day, and then like in the 70s, you had like Barry Gordy went into filmmaking, so Diana Ross started acting, and so he's like, oh, you can sing and then become an actor. Oh my goodness. So then I was like, yeah, I want to do that too. So my plan was sing to go to everything else, and
Okay.
being a stand-up comic wasn't even really something I had thought about or considered, because I didn't know that existed until I was older. I remember seeing Richard Pryor live in concert. That was the first time I ever saw somebody like stand in front of a crowd with a microphone with the intention of making people laugh. Before then, it was always just people being around together, and somebody was funny and they would say things that made people laugh. But the whole concept of it being something where a person would say, hey, everybody, come around, I'm going to make you laugh right now, that was foreign to me. But once I saw that, it resonated with me, but not like in a way that right then and there I knew it was going to happen for me. It was just kind of like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know that you could do that, man. And I do remember that after that, kind of seeing myself in situations where I was making people laugh, and then continuing on, like, now that I got you laughing, I'm going to see if I can keep making you laugh.
Okay.
And I remember the summer that my grandfather died, I was about 13, 14 years old. And I remember when he was sick, my whole family basically spent the summer at my grandparents' house. Like a lot of us grandkids, we stayed there every day. And our parents, they would go home but come back, and every day the whole family was all around helping out, because that's what was needed. At the end of the day, we would all go sit out on the front of the house, and I would get in front of my family, and I would try to make them laugh and entertain them, doing impersonations and so musical impersonations, but making them funny, and also just making fun of what was going on in the news.
Mm-hmm.
So that was probably like after seeing Richard Pryor, and then that was probably like the second seed, like, hey, I'm kind of doing that thing that I saw. And but that was still kind of like, yeah, that's what I'm just doing right now to make my family laugh. And years later, when I was, really hardcore pursuing music, I had a friend who wanted to do stand-up comedy, and Def Jam had just come out, and everybody, thought they was funny. They were trying to go to the comedy club and do comedy. And my buddy wanted to, and I just thought he wanted me to go with him, but he was like, no, you make people laugh, you should go too. So I went, and it worked. And it worked long enough for me to realize that, hey, I can do this, and this can be the thing that brings that I can come back to the other things. Because at the time, pursuing music, I was going into studios, but I kept encountering people trying to make me sing like whatever was popular at the time.
Okay.
And coming from my gospel and soul background, I come from a feeling it and singing it different every time according to how you feel. So you telling me to do it exactly a certain way just was like, I didn't like the lack of control. And being a stand-up comedian, one person on stage, it was like, I'm in charge of this whole thing. It's like I'm the writer, producer, director of this. And I was like, I want to eventually write, produce, and direct my own things, but eventually I'll get back to the music and the acting and all this other stuff will all come together. And it has. I pretty much, like I always say, I'm living my dream. I'm doing everything I ever said I wanted to do. At this point now, it's just levels to reach.
Wow. Now, I asked you on the last interview, and this is something I really wanted you to tell us about again. I said to you, Rick, fear. Did fear ever hit you? I mean, it's not like, I'm going to assume there wasn't a lot of people around you going into this business that you were about to go into. And so with a lot of people would say they're scared because they don't know anyone else personally that's done it. Were you ever fearful?
I mean, I guess you have to, how do you define fear? I guess we're all fearful of things, no matter what we do. I guess it's how you handle the fear and what you do with it. Because they say bravery is acting in spite of the fear. So it's like, I guess you could say I never wasn't afraid. I just was brave. It was like, I knew that I never liked traditional work type of things. My family used to joke all the time about how Ricky does not like to work. And I like to work hard at what I love to do, but I don't like to do work. I had an Uncle Alan,
Okay.
and they used to call him Toots. So they called him Big Toots and called me Little Toots because they said I had the same attitude towards work. Now this was a guy, he owned like a pig farm and owned some land, and he would take my father and my uncle, and they would work work with the hogs, taking them to slaughter and all this other stuff. And whenever they would go out to do this type of work, they would get in the truck, and they said when Uncle Alan would get almost to the farm, he would see somebody he knew and said, "Hey boy, y'all go ahead up there and get started. I'm gonna talk to old, whatever the person, Mr. Jenkins right here." And they said it never failed. He always seemed to be finished and heading over just as they were finishing up the work. And Uncle Alan had a saying, "Work can be done. I just don't want to be the one doing it." And
I know that's right.
I kind of am like that when it comes to doing things I don't want to do. So if you put me like if like say, "Hey Rick, you got to be an accountant." No, I can't do that. Rick, you could be a lawyer. I'm like, nah, I don't want to do anything other than the performance part of being a lawyer. It's like, so those things I don't want to do. But as far as my career, I've always worked hard at what I do. And so I always felt like as long as I was happy with the life I was living, then it to me then I was living the dream. So it was like, I don't have to be rich to do this as long as I am doing it, I'm loving it, and I'm making some money doing it. I don't have to be rich doing it. And so the road to whatever things I've achieved have always been like, this is a part of it. I remember first moving to New York, and I used to do what I call the sleep diet. And I was like, I would try to sleep as many hours in a day. That way I didn't know I was hungry because I would be asleep. And I remember when I first moved up here, there was this place where you could get fried chicken wings and rice for like a pretty low amount of money. that was like the late 90s, so I can't remember exactly how much it was, but it was something that I could afford. And I would do like 2 wings and half of the rice one part of the day, 2 wings and the other half like in the middle of the day. Then I'd go out, and hopefully at the club I was working, I could get food from there. And but I was having a great time. I was loving what I was doing. So it was like, this is just a part of what I have to do to get there. And
you can tell when people, how bad somebody really wants something. Because if you're really gonna go after what you love and what's gonna make you the happiest, we make sacrifices. We don't make excuses. We make sacrifices.
Yeah. Well, it's like for me, it was, I didn't require a lot to live. Now, along the way, there were a few relationships that had to fall by the wayside because a lot of women want a man who can afford to take them out. I really wasn't that guy for a long time. I was like, if you want to have a good time, if you want to, but be around someone who's fun, who's funny, who will take you along on his wonderful adventures in the world of showbiz, then cool. But like, and I could be creative and I'll cook for you or whatever. But as far as going out and whining and dining, that wasn't going to be me. So the women who told me a real man gets a job and stuff like that, I had to be like, oh, I need to go find a real man because this is what I'm doing.
I know that. Right.
I remember because my mother used to periodically say to me, Ricky, I know a job you can do, or why don't you go down here and do this? And one day I just finally said, Ma, I'm never working again. Do not tell me about a job ever again. So after that, she only jokingly would tell me about a job.
That's funny because
my mother, after that, she just would always mess with me. Whenever I did anything halfway decent, she would try to get a job doing that. So like if I was on the computer chatting or sending an email and I'm typing real fast, oh, well, look at you typing. You can get a job doing that. Mom, never get the job. That was like the running joke. But after I said that to my mother, I was like, to any woman who came along who thought that they were going to tell me to get a job and I was going to listen, I was like, I told my mother I'm never getting a job again. What makes you think I'm going to get a job because you said I should get a job?
I know that's right. I've had a couple family members. I don't know. It's something you would think that they were feeding you or something. They want to suggest in a nice way, you should really get a job.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And I'm like, I tell myself, Stacey, they don't understand. They don't have this dream,
Well, I remember watching Joel Osteen once, and I don't watch Joel Osteen a lot, nor do I quote him a lot. But he did say one thing that he was talking about how a lot of times people go towards things and they stop because they didn't have support from family and friends. And he was like, God put the dream and the vision in you, not in them. So if they don't see it, it doesn't matter because they're not supposed to see it.
That's right.
So anybody who is supportive of you, that's great. But if they aren't supportive, I mean, I know people who get pissed off and mad because people don't support. I'm like, obviously I wish that everybody that I loved and everyone that I knew was supportive of me and shared everything I ever posted and bragged about how great I was. But it's like, it doesn't happen. It seems like most of the time, the people who will say things like that about you are people who don't even know you.
That's right. That's right.
I've said this before. It seems like people have a hard time wrapping their mind around the idea that they are in the presence of greatness. So what happens is every great person is someone's son, someone's daughter, or someone's brother, someone's sister, your cousin, whatever. But your cousins will be like, you ain't, you singing a gospel song like, you ain't the Winans or nothing. I'm like, well, the Winans are somebody's cousins. And they probably got cousins when they were coming up trying to sing, you ain't James Cleveland. It's like,
yeah.
It's always that whole thing that is like, I know that when the Jacksons were coming up there, people taunting them like, wow, what y'all doing? Y'all better try to get a job here in the steel mill here in Gary, Indiana. It's always people who like, when they see the person close to them trying to do something great, it's like, that's not for you. That's for great people. It's like, well, every great person comes from a hometown, comes from a
Ex-
family. And it's
Exactly. If
so
the cousin hasn't done it, if the brother hasn't done it, then what makes you think you can do it?
right. It's like, and most of the time, the other thing that fuels that is that most talented people come from talented people. So they're like,
Okay.
your Uncle Timmy is the best singer in the family, and he working at the post office. You better get a job, So it's like, I don't know what he wanted to do with that. Maybe he didn't realize. And like, I also get the whole like generations. Like, I know that with my family, both sides of my family came up in the Church of God in Christ, and the whole idea of entertainment as a career always was a worldly thing. So
Okay.
it's really so that's not necessarily, unless you're doing it for the Lord. Most people from those types of families just aren't going to do it. And sometimes doing it for the Lord means that you're willing to just be the lead singer on the choir. But when you're that family member who's like, no, I can do this. And I think their idea of what the industry is like makes a lot of people afraid for you. And they call them, and I know that most people, like your parents usually have good intentions when they want you to get a job with benefits, because they want you to be able to eat and they want you to be able to get sick. And I was like, that's just not my route. And my brother used to always mess with me about the only reason I work is so I can use these benefits. And I but I mean, once he started seeing me on TV and stuff, he did say, man, I'm so proud of you. He's like, I'm not gonna lie, I was scared. He's like, I was too afraid to not have a paycheck every 2 weeks, too afraid to, leave Baltimore or whatever. And it's like, for me, it just this is the life I live now. It's like, the people that so many other people look at it as like, oh my goodness, what's it like to be around this person? I'm like, these are the people I'm around all the time. So it becomes your norm.
So when you first started, Rick, did being an African American male, did it make it more difficult, or when you began this, it wasn't as bad as maybe it was way back in the day?
Well, I mean, we like they say, we stand on the shoulders of the people that have gone before us, but still it's it's not perfect, but it's better than it was for Black people, but it's still, it still has its struggles. It's still, unless the show is a Black show, you come across so many things, so many productions where it's not that many Black people. Like even the show I'm on Broadway in, I'm like, there's not a lot of Black people in my cast. And I find that even the way that Broadway shows market, a lot of times they market in such a way that you would never even know that there are Black people in the various casts. And so it's like,
Okay.
a lot of times people call it working towards their demographic or the market that they're going for. But I'm like, what's so bad about showing a few Black faces just to let people know? Because Black people love to see themselves. And I'm like, do you know, you would probably get a large number of Black people to come if they knew that there were 6 Black people in the show or however many Black people in the show. I found that because there's fewer roles, a lot of times Black actors have a hard time getting agents, which makes it so that they don't necessarily get considered for things. And then it's like, when most of the roles for a Black male are, bouncer or, thug or whatever, if you don't look the part, then that makes it so it's harder for you to get work. And just trying to figure out how to be proactive in creating your own opportunities. That's why I always love being a stand-up comic and a creator of things, because it's like, instead of waiting for someone to give me a job or waiting or depending on other people to say yes for me to do something, I can do my own thing. And so yeah, it's like, I also feel that the way that manifests itself is that if you really pay attention, you notice that a lot of black actors, they kind of reach their prime prime, I guess, earning potential for most black actors is when they get a little older, when they can play a wiser person, like your Samuel Jacksons and your Morgan Freemans, and it's like there's always a few of people that get through young. Like right now you got Michael B. Jordan. Denzel was pretty young when he broke through, and Taye Diggs and Morris Chestnut. But then you have people like, I have a friend, his name is Rob Morgan. He's popping up everywhere, and we're about the same age. And a lot of our friends we're starting to see each other like, oh man, Rick got another thing, and Rob got this, and Don got that, and it's like our opportunity to be the sophisticated, smooth black man is coming.
Well,
you gotta be cool enough for people to look up to you, but too old to take the white leading lady from the white leading man. So
okay.
I call it fear of black balls. So until they think that your balls have hung.
Fear of what, Rick?
Fear of black balls.
You said
fear of black balls. They fear our potency.
Fear of black balls. Yeah, so wow.
They fear our Rick. So they wait until they think we're not as potent to give us the opportunities. All right, now go ahead, old.
I never thought about that.
Sexy, but not no more.
Oh wow. So Rick, if somebody like me, okay, and I've got people that are watching this that are working on their own web series, right?
Yeah.
They're not waiting for big stars to invite them into their lane. They're starting to create their own things.
Yeah.
What would you say is the best way when people are looking for talented authors on a low budget? Is that impossible?
Well, nothing is impossible. I mean, a lot of times you have to follow the blueprints that have been set by people before us. Like, I've been having a lot of conversations lately because we're getting more and more black creators. Here's the thing: whenever there's a lot of us, historically we've kind of been pitted against each other. So instead of people thinking, "Hey, it's okay for me to like this person's work and not necessarily that person's work," it's not a dig on them and not me not being a brother. It's just that this is my taste as opposed to that. But I mean, it's so many people doing things, so you can almost like just pick a person and find out what their path was and figure out if that fits you. Also, as you try to create your own path. With the internet and with so many ways to stream things, and it's like, a lot of times you just gotta not wait. I'm trying. I have in the past produced a couple of films, a full-length documentary called Sold Out Comedy, and a short film called Whistle and Snap, which is a comedy mockumentary. I haven't done as much in recent years, but I am going to get back to that. I've done a lot more of producing of live shows, but just things that gives you a body of work that lets people see that you can do what you're saying you can do. Okay. So, like, for example, if you're an author and you've written a book, it's a fiction novel or whatever, and you just decide, hey, I'm going to write the script for the movie for this book, and then you like say, okay, I need to find some actors and other people who are qualified and skilled in filmmaking and directing, and let's shoot this. Let me figure out how I'm going to get them. These days you can shoot quality things on iPhones, and there have been people who've done it. It's what's it? High flying. I'm gonna look this movie up. There's a movie that's on Netflix, came out like last year, that was shot on iPhones, and you would never know it looking at it on Netflix. I'm looking it up if I'm on my phone right now. But I said all that to say that there's so many ways to do things and not, break the bank on it.
Okay.
Flying Bird. It's called
What is it?
Bird, and it was shot on iPhones.
Okay. So
when we did our short film, it's called Whistle and Snap. We basically bartered and exchanged with another production company, and I paid the actors out of my pocket, not anything exorbitant, but just kind of like, hey, I don't want to ask you to do this for free. I'll give you something. And I did it through Screen Actors Guild, and it was a deferred payment type of thing. Deferred payment just means that right now, the purpose of this film is not necessarily to make money, but if it gets picked up by somebody and starts to make money down the road, then you will get paid once this thing starts making money. So there are ways to creatively figure out how to create a product and then just put it out there. And whether that means putting it on your YouTube channel or putting it on your Facebook and Instagram, whatever, anywhere that you can get people to see it and get eyes on it, because it might resonate with somebody. So, and sometimes it's not even about numbers. Like, it is great if you do great numbers, but if it gets seen by the right people, then it doesn't matter. Like Broad City on Comedy Central is an example of that. Broad City was like a web series that didn't have a lot of traffic, but I think Amy Poehler, who used to be on Saturday Night Live and on Parks and Recreation, she saw it and liked it and decided she wanted to executive produce it, and it got done on Comedy Central.
Okay. Can you hear me, Rick?
Yep.
Okay. So I want to say thank you, but more importantly, Rick, I want you to let us know, how can we follow you? Like, how can we support you? What should we check out, for you? Oh, we have a question. Did you say high flying birds?
High flying bird, one bird, high flying bird.
It's one bird, Valerie, one bird.
Yeah. It's on.
Okay.
I saw it on Netflix. I'm assuming it's still on Netflix. Let me just. Andre Holland is in it. If you don't know the name, you'll recognize the face. Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Okay. Oh, and I did have one other thing I wanted to ask you.
Uh-huh.
Well, two things. Is that okay?
Yeah.
The very first time someone called you for you to be on their show, what did it feel like?
Say it again. The very first time.
The very first gig you got to be on TV, what did it feel like?
I'm trying to think. What was the first TV gig? For me, it was kind of like, it's about time. I think I did a national commercial for Verizon, and remember when they used to have the commercials where the network follow you around? I was in the first one of those. So I was in the commercial that introduced the network. Matter of fact, the girl who's in it with me is currently on a Amazon Prime show called Upload. Her name is Andrea Rosen. So that was pretty exciting, that first national commercial, because all of a sudden people all over are like seeing you, and so reaching out in whatever ways, or so that was kind of cool, and it was kind of new and crazy. The other thing I learned from that is that Black people will recognize Black people.
What do you mean?
Like when I was in that commercial, I'll be walking down the street and Black people would like be, "You're the guy from the Verizon commercial, right?" White folks never said, they never recognized me. It's like, they're like, I don't really pay attention when the Black guy comes. And that's happened a couple of times when I've had like commercials that have run. So that was exciting. When I finally got on television, it was the thing about getting on TV, like on a TV show, the first few times I booked stuff, I ended up on the cutting room floor. So like you go and you shoot a scene, and then when the show comes on, the scene has been cut out.
Oh.
And that happened to me on Law and Order Criminal Intent and regular Law and Order. So by the time I booked Law and Order SVU, I was like not sure if I was gonna air or not. So it was kind of like I had this big thing like, do I even bother to tell anybody? Because the first time I did, it's like I did it a couple times where I told people, and both times it didn't air. So, this time I was like, should I not? Finally, the day before, I finally was like, look, y'all, I'm just gonna let y'all know I'm supposed to be on. The last few times I was supposed to be on, I ended up on the cutting room floor. So hopefully it all works out. If it doesn't, I guess I'll have some jokes about it in my stand-up. and it happened. So so for me, it was a sigh of relief, like, oh, finally. And even after that, I was in a pilot once that I got cut out of. It's like, so you have all of those experiences. That's what was so exciting about doing The Last OG, is that I beyond the experience just being enjoyable, it was the fact that I pretty much knew it was going to air. I got paid more money than I'd ever been paid for a TV spot. I had a character name. I was in a part of the show where I'm like, I know they can't cut this out, or the show is not going to have enough minutes in it. It's like, the part of the show that I'm on is like, it's all me at the beginning as a part of the hood.
I saw it. It was good. It was good.
So like, it's kind of like another level of, okay, to finally start getting stuff where, first of all, once your character starts having a name, that's usually pretty good. And you're not cop number 3 or angry man at bar. It's like, oh, his name is Mezzo Mike. So you're like, okay. So now it's like, it's kind of cool to have a few things where I'm like, oh man, I did this and I worked with these people. Like I've had some pretty good, I've worked with Woody Allen. I worked with, obviously worked with Tracy Morgan. I wrote for him on one of his comedy specials, and I've been on The Last OG. My first movie was with, like I said, Harrison Ford, Diane Keaton, and Rachel McAdams. And so it's like, I have had those opportunities to work with some nice people. I'm on Broadway working with Tina Fey and Lauren Michaels. So it's like, you just kind of feel yourself climbing up the food chain. It's like, and it's the kind of business where you're always one gig away from the gig. So,
well, I'm wishing you the very best. And I do hope as you climb, right? Even years from now, when I send you an email asking for an interview, please come back.
I will.
So tell us how we can follow you. And then if you don't mind, will you sing a tune before you log off?
Well, you can find me at Rick Younger on Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, Snapchat, youtube.com/Rick Younger, youtube.com/The Rick Younger Show, facebook.com/Rick Younger page, or Google me. I'm the first 6 to 12 pages of Rick Younger on Google. All right. You want me to sing a little something?
Yeah.
I want to tell you, baby, the changes I've been going through. Missing you, listen you, till you come back to me. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Don't you remember you told me you love me, baby? You said you'd be coming back this way again, baby. Baby, 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 oh, baby, I love you. I really do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love watching you. And don't forget, for those of you watching, he is on Facebook, like he said, and he sings a lot on his morning shows. So check him out. Rick, I know that was a surprise for me asking you that. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, I'm always ready to sing a song.
Take care and thank you again, okay?
All right. I'll talk with you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, I got to laugh. I got to talk to another great person. I thank you for watching. I am Stacey Thomas, Unrestricted Unlimited. And for those of you that are new, it just simply means don't put me in a box. Have yet to see all that God has for me. As you see on the bottom of the screen, I am an author, speaker, and advocate. For any books that you like to read, please check me out on Amazon.com. And until next time, don't stress about yesterday. Don't worry too much about tomorrow, because you just might miss living today.